As Ann said, my name is Morgan McDermott. I'm a Baltimore County resident. I have 2 children who attend Baltimore County schools. One is 7, one is 9. I've been an educator for 23 years, both in K-12, in regular ed, special ed. I'm now in higher ed, so I teach teachers how to teach. I've been doing that for 12 years. And I'm one of 6 original members of a group called United Opt-Out. And our goal is to end high-stakes testing as a vehicle that's been driving public education decisions since No Child Left Behind forward. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what it means to refuse standardized testing in the state of Maryland. And I say refuse because the name of our group is Opt-Out, but what we've discovered in the last 3 years since its creation is that many states don't have what are called opt-out clauses. It has to come forward as a testing refusal. And I had this experience last year when I wrote my letter, and it was my standard opt-out letter, which we're going to share with you. And I thought he was, I'm sorry, Ms. McDermott, there's no opt-out clause in the state of Maryland or Wisconsin. Let me rephrase that, or refusing the test. And then we went back and forth a couple times. And I'm fortunate that I have a school that has been, I don't want to say supportive of me, but they've been helpful. You know, what you will find is a lot of these decisions come down to the administrator. And so, as much as I'd love to say there's one right, simple answer how you do this, I can't, because there are so many factors of it depends. Some of you might be here because you want to know more about Common Core. Some of you are here because you want to know more about the testing. The two are intrinsically intertwined. If you want to know why we have the testing, it's because of Common Core. If you want to know why we have Common Core, it's because of the testing. They're peanut butter and jelly. They go together. They were designed to go together to create a national, one-size-fits-all data set that can manage schools in much more of a business or corporate model. And it's more cost efficient to testing companies. There was a publication in 2010 about how standardized testing affects the profits of testing companies like Pearson. And I read this primary document, and I was very curious. And one of the things it said was, one of the problems we had with No Child Left Behind was, we had the accountability and the standardized tests, but you had state-level tests. So California had theirs, Maryland had theirs, Rhode Island had theirs. Well, from a testing company perspective, that's costly. You've got to come up with 50 different, sets of standards, 50 different tests. When you have 2 tests, either Park or SBAC, and we're a Park state, and you have a Common Core, right? You've saved gazillions of dollars as a testing company. So there's a profit motive involved in this as well. So we're streamlining all of these things together. And it's got a very ugly history. And none of this has ever really been proven to be reliable, valid, or meaningful. And yet we've gone on, we've perpetuated for decade after decade. It just keeps getting worse and worse. The race to the top is worse than No Child Left Behind. And like Ann said, with Race to the Top, there were 5 basic mandates that we had to agree to as a state. One was new tests. The other was new curriculum. The third was new policies on turnaround models for schools. So schools that do not perform well in these new tests will be closed and turned into for-profit charters. That's another story. We want to have new teacher accountability attached to it. So now teachers' performance is going to be measured 20 to 30% based on these new tests. Anyway, so going back to the money thing though, all of this, and new technology, because everything's going to be done online. We need new computers, we need new technological infrastructure for all of this. Park will be delivered online across this, across all the states and the county, across the counties, in the years to come. All of this costs oodles more money than any of it ever did before. When you get Race to the Top, it's like a coupon. If you've ever gone to a store and they give you a coupon, and they say, if you use this coupon, you get $20 off a $50 purchase. Well, if you didn't spend the $50, you don't get the $20 coupon. Race to the Top is much like that. It's a coupon to buy Pearson products. And if you don't buy the Pearson products, you don't need the coupon. So whenever we say, if we don't do the tests, if we don't test our kids, we're not going to get the money, I say, then keep your bloody money, because we don't need it if we don't agree to the tests to begin with.
The problem is that the teachers that teach, for example, first grade, cannot administer the test to the first grade. So, especially in our school anyway. So they have to be testing the 3rd grade kids, which means my 1st grader is not having their own teacher in the classroom at that time. And so it's not only the time they lose for the test, it's the time that the other teachers are having to go to another classroom to teach or to monitor the test. So that's one of the problems with the test. The second is, and I asked this to our school principal, I have 3 children, 2 in elementary, 1 in high school. I asked the principal, I said, when you get the PARC results, are you getting a number or are you getting data? And she said, we get the final scores, I don't know what it is, let's say it's 150. So they get, Daniel got 150 on the PARC test, I don't know, I'm just making this up. I said, well, what good is that? It's not telling you anything about Common Core. It said the trend is that all your children are missing number 47, which corresponds to Common Core data 1-42. Then you need to work on that. That would make sense to me. But the problem is the outcome of the test is absolutely it's nothing.
Right.
I mean, it's just a lot of money spent for nothing.
When you want to bring this to your schools, there are some key talking points. One is the money being spent that should go to hiring more teachers, building playgrounds, infrastructure. Oh my gosh, how about air conditioning? A lot of schools don't even have that. The other is the amount of time, which is going to probably double. And I asked this at Baltimore County when they talked about it. It was Southwest Regional meeting. I said, how much more time is going to be spent with the park than what was with MSA? And their answer was, we don't know. And the third is the influence it's going to have on the quality of instruction. The disruption to the school routine and the provision for instruction from those classroom teachers, all of these things for something that's really not demonstratively improving the quality of our child's education from what it was. Yeah, that's another good question.
Because as far as pulling her out, I don't want to, where they're so emotionally distraught already, if you opt them out and they sit out in a classroom, that still does something to them compared to the other children in the school. And so that's where it's like, where do you find that equal, I guess?
It depends. I got lucky. When I refused the test for my children, they said, well, we're going to put him in, Mrs. So-and-so's room, and he's going to do science with them. So my kids came home like, ooh, we did science experiments.
Okay.
But not every school's like that. I've heard of instances where it's sit and stare, your child has to sit home. And that's where you as a parent have to determine with your child, am I willing to play hardball? And that's a case by case. For some kids, they're like, yeah, man, they've got that constitution for it. For some parents they do, for some parents they don't. What I can say is, no school has ever lost funding for refusing the test. They will tell you, well, we won't get the funding if your child's thinking. Show me the data. Show me the state, show me the school, show me the classroom where that's actually happened. It's never happened to date. There's a 6% rule. If more than 6% opt out, all of the data for that school is considered invalid and unusable. Tip the scale. You get 6% of your parents to refuse. You've skewed their data, which is the goal. The goal is to get a mass opt-out movement so that they can no longer hold that data over anybody's head. But what we have in United Opt-out is people who have your back. So if you get flat, you contact me, you contact Dan, you contact Lou back there, and we're like, we're showing up. In other words, you take all, I'm a parent, you take us all on, and how much do you really want to do that? And every single time the parents play chicken, they've won. This is an across the aisle marriage of certain liberal ideas, or what we call liberal in quotes, or conservative, I'm putting everything in quotes, okay? And they reached across the aisle for profit and for greed and for control. And so you've got, at the top, you've got the federal government, which right now we consider to be, I guess, Democrat, they're, liberal, right? And then if you peel back one more layer, you've got these partnerships with a free market enterprise, which we consider mostly free market conservative, and they've agreed upon this relationship. And resistance to these, to these new efforts is also conservative and liberal, right? I mean, we are parents who come from all political parties who agree on one thing: what's happening to my child is wrong, what is happening to my school is wrong, and what's happening to public education is wrong.
I was just going to say, my problem with the whole testing thing is the lack of instructional time. My son was tested and he had mock tests for an entire month. So that's like 1/10 of his 3rd grade year. That stretches across the aisle. That's everybody's problem. It doesn't matter if you're liberal or conservative. If your child is being tested day in, day out, or they have a practice test, which is even more ridiculous. All they're doing is filling in bubbles. That's a problem, whether you're a conservative or a liberal.
So the last thing I want to do, because I know Ann wants to move on, our motto at United Opt-out, and I believe this firmly, in order to stop the crazy train, wherever it's going, whoever created it, but we just know we want to stop it, is deny them the data. You deny them the data and it stops. Because this only works, let me finish this one and then I'll jump in. This only works if they have the data from our children. If the data isn't there, the crazy train stops. The people making money, the people using it for whatever purposes, all of that stops. Teachers have been bold enough to step up and fight back, but there's a lot more at risk in terms of their job. You can't fire me as a parent, right? You might be able to fire me as a teacher, you can't fire me as a parent. And I know in the state of New York, 30,000, not 300, not 3,000, 30,000 walked out on the test last spring. And that's a big shock to us in Maryland, where we've got like small handfuls here and there. I'm like the only one in my school, right? 30,000 have refused the test. This is a game changer. If we organize parents to wholeheartedly en masse refuse the tests, that's the game changer for the legislation, it's the game changer for the politics, the policies, and it's doable. If you bring in your letter, this is how I did it, this is how I suggest doing it. I brought my letter into the teacher, because I'm a teacher, I feel bad for other teachers. I'm like, look, this is not between me and you, I love you, you're great, you're a good teacher, but I want to come to you first and let you know I'm not going to be doing the tests. And I'd love to talk with you about how we can work together as a team to accommodate what my child might be doing during this time. If you have any problems with the administration, you have them come to me, because I know that this isn't about you. First thing I want them to know is that I'm not attacking them, so that they're off the defense and that they know I'm trying to support them in their profession. And then I let them decide. I let the teacher decide how to go to the administration with it. And then the administration went to MSDE, and that's when I got the letter from Henry Johnson. But go through your teacher first so that they feel empowered and like they're part of the solution for your child. Most teachers, honest to God, when you tell them you're refusing the test, yes, because they don't want it, because they know it's wrong. They know what it's doing to your child.
And the teachers can't keep up with these programs. So I feel sorry for the poor teachers who cannot possibly deal with this business of my pay is going to be dependent on what this student does.
Well, I think really the problem with standardized testing is that there's just no appreciable outcome. They're testing our kids to death, not promising us more money, not promising more rigorous curriculum, not promising special things for the gifted and talented children. There's nothing coming out of this. It's just sitting there testing.
But if you want any of these things, you have to detach it from this testing machine first.
You know, a lot of parents are running into roadblocks with their schools when they say, I want to opt out. You know, they're getting flack back from their schools. So what we need to know is what our rights are and what the law is. Now, COMAR governs this. And this is what COMAR says. It says that the school system cannot exclude a student from participation in mandatory tests administered through the MSDE. It doesn't mention parents here because this does not govern the action of parents. It only governs the school system. So the school system has to administer it. That's why they say you can't opt out. It doesn't mean you can't opt out. It means they can't opt out. We can refuse it. Kids do not have to take the test. They can't force a pencil in their hand. So you need to know what your rights are, what the law says, and then what to do about it from there. And again, Morna covered this. What you have to say is we're refusing the test. You know, you as a parent are refusing to have your child take the test. There are some other things we can do. You know, we get those directory opt-outs at the beginning of every school year. You can opt out of the directory information. You can opt out of the telecommunications section. And then another thing that I did, because Maureen was talking about the letter, and we're going to have some sample letters here for you, is I refuse surveys as well. Without my written consent, I refuse to have my child do any surveys as well. So those are some options of things that you can do. Now this is the email letter that I sent to my school principal. And we can provide copies, we can email it out to you all as long as you give us your email address. But you keep it short and sweet, just say, I refuse. I refuse to permit my child to take the surveys, questionnaires, assessments, etc. And you know, in a cooperative manner with your teachers and your principals and administrators. And I've had no problem. They've been very cooperative so far, to my knowledge. So that was my letter. United Opt Out also has a letter too. Is it?
You pay for this test but we're not getting the test back, so we can't see specifically what they did wrong, so we can't help
Or
them.
what's in
So
it.
it's not very valid.
That could be a what
Or-
do we do thing, is start demanding them.
And
Or
that's true with surveys too. Our kids are being given surveys and we're not aware of it. We don't know what's in it, all of that.
Right.
And we'll continue a conversation that way as well.
Well, thank you, Maura,
Thank
for
you.
all of this.